Alright, this is going to be the start of the Mark 5 2.5 water pump do-it-yourself. Got my water pump parts in from esctuning. Open up and see what's inside. We got a Serpentine belt. I'm not sure which. This is probably the AC belt. It's short. We got the main Serpentine belt, which is a little longer. That is a Bando brand. This is a Continental, which actually I have a Continental, so I'm gonna, instead of using the Bando brand, I'm gonna use the Continental. So two Continental belts on there. Okay, so it goes out. Let's see what else we got. Packing stuff. Looks like a bag of bolts, which should be motor mount bolts. A couple. It's like Torx style Torx bolts. It just says Torx bolt on it. Larger bolt. It says hex socket bolt, so they're not really labeled as what goes where. There's another one. There's another bolt. These look like motor mount bolts. These are all packaged nice. Self-locking hex bolt. So these look like these are torque to yield bolts, so these are probably the motor mount bolts. One of these, this might be the dog bone bolt, or maybe this one. We'll figure it out. We got 2 jugs of coolant. I forgot to add, this is the $114 kit that they sell. This comes with a get a light here. Here's the water pump. This is a URO water pump. And lines up with the bolt holes, so that should be pretty simple to put back on. O-ring's already installed. Yeah, so that's the basics of basic kit you get. I was kind of kicking myself. I should have got a thermostat while I was in there, but that'll be another do-it-yourself, I guess. This way, this is just the water pump. Now, looking at this, I'm probably going to remove this 10mm, move this out of the way, the washer fluid, little filler neck, that's going to go. Coolant ball is going to go, or at least out of the way. Probably just completely just pull the hoses off and remove that. So that's going to get out of the way. Hoping I don't have to remove any of these fuel lines. Hopefully I can kind of just pull those and tuck those out of the way. Don't think I need to pull the engine cover off. I am going to be removing the wheel and possibly the inner fender liner. So the car's going to need jacked up. So you'll need a jack stands. And this block of wood is going to be for me to set the motor on with the jack. So when I jack the motor up to the side, hopefully that's enough. Okay, so I got the car jacked up. Next thing I'm going to do is remove passenger side wheel, and then we're going to pull the belly pan off. And Next is going to start, after that stuff's removed, probably unbolt that dog bone. We'll mount there. And then tear into the top portion of the motor. Alright, tires removed, wheel is removed. And I don't think I need to mess with the top liner. I don't think that's going to help. So I don't think we need to pull the top fender liner out. But we're going to see if I can remove this bottom one. But probably need to take these Torx out. These Torx screws, they are Torx 25s. And probably something on the bottom. There's a Torx 25 there. I'm sure there's probably a couple on the bottom. Still got to pull the belly pan off. So you'll need to remove these. Alright, so I remove Torx screws from the belly pan. My belly pan is destroyed. So once that's out, you can remove that and slide that somewhere. Also take note, you're going to want a catch pan to catch coolant. You're going to want to drain your coolant. And I'll go through that once I start. And a nice dent on a tranny pan. Yeah, so looks like that piece probably just needs pried out of there, and we'll see how that opens that up. I apologize for the camera. Right now I'm just holding it. And voila. Set that aside. Yep. And you can see the coolant leaking out of the motor. And I just saw that I'm going to need a Torx triple square or 12-point star bit for that guy right there. I'm not sure what size it is, probably M8 maybe, triple square. I don't think it's a 12. Alright, my jack under here with my piece of block, and you can usually remove this bolt without these bolts without having to jack up the engine. But just to be safe, I'm gonna put the jack under the pan. And it's nice to have a block of wood that can spread the load of the motor out. So if you have a nice big block of wood, that will help. Now once this is under here, this is going to stay under here until we remove all the bolts, the upper engine bolts. So make sure you have your jack where you need it, because once you start removing the engine mount bolts, there's really no turning back. So it has to be properly secured. And this should be, I guess that's a 22 or 23. See, with that removed, it's already went into rock around. Okay, so here's the two bolts removed from the dog bone mount, and here are the two new ones, which is goofy because my two new ones have washers, my old ones didn't, and they look completely different. These are zinc coated or have an anti-corrosion coating, and these ones are kind of just plain and kind of shiny. So that's kind of goofy. Alright, I'm going to be kind of jumping around filming this, but because I'm guessing there's really no specific order you can do this, but right now I'm going to take this lower belt off since I have access to this tensioner, and that is a triple square, which I usually just use these. These are cheap. You can get these at like Advance or AutoZone. Come in a pack, different sizes. They're good for brakes. Well, usually you need something bigger than M12. I think it's an M14 for brakes for the caliper bolts. But this is an M10 that we will be using, and it just barely clears. So I should just be able to rotate that without catching that tensioner. If I wasn't able to have clearance, I was probably going to take a grinder and smooth those edges out. But yeah, so we're going to put that in there. I'll probably put a socket on that and turn that, and that should relieve tension on this belt, and we'll remove it. Okay, I got my wrench, loosen this M12 triple square. What's an M10 triple square? So I put this on here, and I cheated. I already cracked it loose. But you can see the tension being relieved. Okay, this is a 15 millimeter, and it looks like it go to the left. Yeah. Won't get pinched. And that is the lower belt removed. Alright, I think next I'm going to remove the coolant. So I'm going to remove the cap in case there's any pressure in the system. Just don't want that blowing up on me when I remove the lower hose. And then we are going to need a nice catch can to catch the coolant. And I'm using a cheap $8 stainless pot from Walmart. And I'm just going to remove this lower rad hose from here. I wanted to stay out of the view of the camera, but I know what happened. Get this out of the way till I just get this loose from this kind of in a tricky spot. I can't really see what I'm grabbing. There we go. But probably blocking the camera. But you gotta squeeze these tabs on the clamp together, and that opens it up. And I'm just gonna hopefully open it up enough so I can slide it over. There we go. There. So I just slid it over and put it on the plastic coupling. Then probably just twist this a couple of times. Might need a screwdriver just to maybe break this little seal here. It's been on here for 114,000 miles. So yeah, so we just gotta. Yep, see now I broke that little seal. Some coolant came out. This is where you gotta be careful, because you don't want to break these plastic pieces. Because one, you break this, it's over. You're gonna get soaked. Extra cautious. I'm afraid that this is gonna break. Probably being too cautious, but Volkswagen and their brittle plastic. Alright, next we're going to start removing the battery. Set that aside. You need 10mm. Take your cables off. Pull the battery out. Start with negative. Okay, there you can see the bolt we need to get. It is a 13. I went overkill because you kind of want something that has a little swivel end extension. Makes it a little easier. Set this back up. Pull the battery out. Take all this crap off, and I have a little, that's just going to stay there since I have a little relay for my fog lights. Could probably just remove it, or I can unplug it. So remove that. Battery tray looks like it is held on by two 10mm. So we need two 10mm. Alright. Put this cable down here. Now we have the upper training mount. Well, I guess it is the training mount. You're going to be removing these two bolts, and that'll free. Once you remove these, they're done. Throw these in the garbage. That's why you need to have. That's why the kit comes with new bolts. These are torque to yield. A lot of people reuse them. I've reused them before on my Mark IV. But you shouldn't. Alright, so I decided not to use the impact gun on removing these. So I'm just going to use this big ass setup. These bolts are 18mm. They shouldn't be too tight. That's not too bad. Once again, make sure your motor is supported. Once you start loosening these, the motor is going to fall. I see the motor. Alright, I made sure the motor supported good. Like right now, I'm just pulling these out by hand. If there was tension on the bolts, you wouldn't be able to do that. And if you were, and you did release it, that motor would just suddenly drop. So, now that looks like I need a new engine mount. Right, next up, start removing some stuff over here. I'm gonna unplug the coolant ball. Going to move this little hose thing out of here. Can remove this little coolant return line. So we need pliers. Grab that. there. You give it a twist. This is where I should have gloves on because those clamps are sharp. So that's freed up. Move that to the side or bend it back. And it looks like we need a... Well, my camera little tripod legs fell off. Looks like we need a... Oh, that's for the... So we'll need a 10mm. That'll get rid of this hose. It looks like it can bend around pretty good, so we'll get that out of here. But for the coolant ball, we need a Torx 25. Looks like a Torx 25, Torx 25. Guessing two Torx 25s, and there's another clamp down here, which goes to this hard line, which I'm guessing this is going to have to go, so we'll have to remove this. Looks like it's just clamps, two 10mm. So that'll all go. And I shouldn't have to mess with these fuel lines. I might just zip tie them to this engine hoist bracket. That way they're just tight and out of the way. Get this 10mm out of here. This can get stuffed somewhere down here. I'd be careful with that. It's probably plastic. It's made by Volkswagen, so it's probably brittle. I'm cheating. I'm using a drill. And we go down and do that bottom hose. See if there's enough room. It's not, so I'm going to remove this hard line. These are two 10mm. Okay. Maybe we don't have to disconnect that. We could just kind of flip it over here. Nice. So I didn't remove the coolant ball, just kind of stuffed it over there. I don't think I'm going to zip tie those lines. I'll just leave them like that. Alright, so I'm going to remove, let's see here. Probably remove this bolt, which they look like they're like 14s, maybe 13s. And then we'll work on those two bolts. These are 13s. Probably should use something other than this little stubby dinky, but it works. So what I'm actually going to do is just put those right back, move the bracket out of the way. That way I don't forget those or mix those up with anything else. We're going to remove these because it needs to come out. Alright, next we got to remove 3 bolts. One here, one down here. This one down here looks like it's going to be a bitch to get to. And they look like they are 16mm bolts. Should have probably loosened these while the main engine mount was. That's the only part that's really confusing me about this now is well, these aren't included. They give you 4 18mm, which we only took out 2. So that part is kind of throwing me off. And this one looks like this is going to be, okay. I think I found a solution. Okay, so I put a ratchet on there, and then I'm using this. Let's see if this will break it loose. And that might be enough. Should be able to undo that by hand, and that should come out. It wasn't that tight, it's just awkward. There's an AC line right here. And there's the engine mount. Oh well, next is I'm going to loosen this tensioner. Maybe that's a tensioner, or that's a tensioner. Well, either way, we're going to loosen something so we can remove this serpentine belt. Well, I found where the other tensioner is. First I thought this was, but that's just an idler. The other tensioner is right here. And the tensioner bolt is, I lost it, right here. And my tool won't fit in there, so I might have to cut my tool in half. Alright, I apologize, but it's dark. I just jacked the motor up a little bit more, and I can fit my tool in there. So I'm using this, goes in here. Might be able to see the belt slack, might not. Okay, well, I'm an idiot. It's the same way as other tensioner, except I was just going from this angle. I kind of should put the wrench over here, and then you just pretty much go clockwise, and that loosens the belt. And you release the tensioner. Sorry if you can't see that, but it's very hard to get in there now. So there we have our long belt. So we got all our serpentine belts removed. Next is just to get this water pump out of here. I still haven't found the right combination right there. Maybe if I pay attention to the little arrow on there, arrow pointing up. And there's 3. I should be able to grab this and ooh, guess what? You might want to put a catch can over that. We got our pump.